Hey guys, Brad Gilmore here. Want to give a big shout out to our title sponsor, Walker Texas Lawyer. If you or a loved one have been injured in an accident, whether that be a car, truck, motorcycle accident, or some kind of other issue, hit up Walker Texas Lawyer at 713-552-1117 or walkertexaslawyer.com.
Oh, Brad, what have you done now?
Broadcasting live from Houston, Texas, and around the world. TV host, best-selling author, and radio personality Brad Gilmore brings you a collection of conversations with stars from movies.
Matthew McConaughey.
Brad Gilmore.
Mark Wahlberg.
Hey, how are you?
The legendary Mr. Christopher Lloyd. Christopher, how are we doing?
I'm doing good. Great introduction.
Television.
Jimmy Fallon joins us this morning. Jimmy, how you doing, my friend?
Good morning. Thank you so much, Brad, for having me. I appreciate this, bud.
Kelly Ripa.
Brad, thank you for having me.
Comedy.
Jay Leno joins us. Jay, how you doing?
Hey, Brad, what's going on?
Chris Tucker is in the building. Chris Tucker, good morning to you.
Hey, Brad. Good morning to you. How are you?
Gabriel Fluffy Iglesias.
Good morning.
Music.
Lola Monroe.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
The legendary frontman of AC/DC, Brian Johnson, joins us right now. Brian, how you doing?
Good morning, Brad. What lucky to talk to me, funny lad.
Grammy Award winner Maya joins us.
How are you?
And more. This is The Collection. Now your host, The Boat, Brad Gilmore.
And he's joining me right now. My guest at this time is the host of Real Time on HBO, which is currently in its 22nd season, the host of Club Random, the podcast that comes out every week. On June 4th, he's the author of the upcoming book, What This Comedian Said Will Shock You, and he'll be here in Houston at the Hobby Center on March the 2nd. Tickets available at thehobbycenter.com. The most trusted name in media, Bill Maher is here. Bill, how you doing, sir?
Thank you. Well, great introduction. Appreciate it, Brad.
How does that make you feel, though? That's not me making that up. People say you're the most trusted name in all of media now.
Yeah, they did some sort of survey. Well, I think that has to do with something they're going to see if they come out to see me there at the Hobby Center, which is, I get a kind of a mixed political audience now. I mean, ideologically mixed, hopefully mixed in every way, but that never used to happen, and it doesn't happen much anymore in America. Everybody is in their own silos, Everybody's tribal, and they only listen to the people who already talk to them about what they already believe. And that's never been what I was interested in doing, and never what I really did on Real Time. I'm interested in saying what I really think is true. And as politics changes, I pretty much call it the way I see it. And so, there's a lot to be made fun of on the left. I consider myself an old school liberal, and I don't think that has changed. But the left has changed. So there's a lot of funny comedy material there, and I'm a comedian. I'm going to go where the comedy is. People say, you make fun of the left more. Yeah, because they're funnier. I'm a comedian, and you're funnier. I'm going to go where the gold is. And also, you don't really believe in free speech anymore, and I take that kind of personally. But of course, there's tons of material also, obviously, about Trump, who I think is still the biggest threat to this country. And I'm not a Republican, and I'm not a Republican for all the reasons I never will be and never was. They don't believe in climate change. They think that's a hoax and the weather girl's tits are real. And they're too religious. And they're in denial about racism, which, of course, is still a thing. And they're fiscal hypocrites who are always against America spending money it doesn't have, except when they're in office, and then it's always completely okay. And then they added to that crappy mixtape, they don't believe in democracy anymore. And they threw in their lot with a sociopath named Donald Trump. So, look, there's plenty to be made fun of on both sides, and I don't pull any punches, and I think that's why people trust me.
Well, it's common sense, and you give it to people straight, and I think that people appreciate it when you give it to them just the way that it is. And, but I've heard you say before that you love playing in the South. Like, you love the South. You've even done a special, I believe, in Oklahoma. Do you have to, do you alter your set at all? And not just for the South. I mean, the opening. Marshall McLuhan famously said the medium is the message, but so is the setting, right? You might have to, try a different joke out to see how this crowd's going to be. Is that something that you do?
Not really. What I do is I have my staff give me a kind of a 2-page review of what's going on locally so I can refer to things locally. When I get there, I want people to know that I care about the district I'm in. But as far as my basic act, no, because I think it's a national act. I'm talking about, look, first of all, I'm not talking about just politics. I mean, I'm up there for 90 minutes. I'm talking about a lot of personal stuff. I'm talking about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and everything else in between. So, I mean, that stuff translates anywhere. And as far as the political stuff, yeah, I mean, I'm a national figure, I think, and I want to do it nationally mostly, and then, sprinkle in the stuff that I think would be relevant to the people in that area. But I definitely don't tailor it to who I think is in the audience ideologically, because, again, I'm trying to have an audience there that's pretty much ideologically from both sides. I mean, I want Trump people in the audience. Even though I don't agree with them, it's half the country. I don't agree with the liberals who, I don't want to breathe the same air as those people. Well, I do, okay? I've said it a million times. You can hate Trump. You can't hate everybody who likes him.
Right.
It's half the country, and we have to get along. And if there's any message that I have in my show, it's that. I know Marjorie Taylor Greene says we need a national divorce. I don't want a national divorce, okay? Sorry, Marjorie, that's not the way to handle this. Civil war, let's do this thing. I see Texas is starting to talk about secession again. Oh, for crying out loud.
It comes up every so often.
It really does. But it's so ironic. The people who just love America so much somehow want to leave it. Okay? And what people have to understand is that America is a family. And the definition of a family is people you hate without resorting to violence. And I think we should not forget that. The shining truth about democracy is we're sharing a country with some assholes you can't stand. And that's okay. It's never going to get different. You're never going to be around only people you like, and you have to learn to get along with them and work with them. And I love it that, people in the audience, I could hear it. They are not of the same political stripe, but we sit there together. We don't hate each other. You can disagree without being disagreeable, as somebody once said.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I use this example all the time. My grandparents, one was a staunch Democrat, one was a staunch Republican. They didn't talk about politics except once every 4 years on Election Day, where they said, let's go cancel each other out. But, they got along. It wasn't a big issue for them to have different ideological views, but still, care about one another and have a family and raise things. And I'm like you. I like hearing both sides. I don't know when we got to that point as a country where we didn't enjoy to hear the other side. I don't know when that shift was. Are you able to pinpoint it?
It's a great question, and somebody I'm sure is going to write a book or two about it, because that really is what we have to find out, is when did we cross that line? Now, I've been doing this for over 30 years, Politically Incorrect. My first show went on the air in 1993. Look, I smoked a lot of pot, so some of my memories back then are fuzzy, but I seem to remember the 90s as a time when people did get along, even though they didn't agree on everything. It wasn't this, I hate the other side. You know what I think a lot of it is? Media.
Yeah.
Fox News came along mid-90s, okay, and so there was a bubble then, and I used to make fun of only the conservatives for being in their bubble. Then MSNBC came along and basically imitated that on the other side. Now, MSNBC is not as bad as Fox News, I don't think, but they're similar in the sense that if you watch only that channel, and a lot of people do, or you only watch Fox News, you only hear half the side. You only hear one side of a story. And that's what always pisses me off, is like when I hear something in the media, immediately I'm suspicious, because I'm saying to myself, okay, maybe you're not lying to me with what you're saying. You're just leaving out the other side of it, which is not exactly a lie, but it kind of is, because there's another side to this, and there's information you're not telling me, and definitely both sides do that. And I hate that, because that makes me, I have to work twice as hard. Now, look, it's my job. It's okay. I'll do it. But everybody else, it's not their job. And if you're only looking on your news feed at the things that they know you want to hear to make you nod your head and go, that's right, Biden is the worst president ever. Yeah, you can do that. It just doesn't make the country work any better.
Oh yeah, not in the slightest. And social media has made us tailor our whole experience of life. And depending on who
Right.
you follow, or like you said, what channel you watch, is kind of your worldview. Now, seems like a topic that you've addressed at the end of your show before. You're in your editorial, which anybody watches your show like I do every single week. I don't miss an episode. They all look forward.
Great. Thank you.
It's true, and to me, that editorial is the main event. We love everything leading up to it, but we're waiting to hear what it is you have to say. And I guess my question for you about your editorial is, do you hope to persuade the minds of people when you're talking, or do you just want them to consider a different point of view?
Yeah, I think at best I would like to convert people to whatever I'm saying, because whatever I'm saying, I believe it. Sometimes people who don't watch the show too much get it twisted, and they think I'm sort of investigative reporter, and they talk about me breaking stories. I don't break stories. I break new ways of looking at stories. I'm always trying to say something nobody else is saying. Make it funny. Always have to make it funny. I can't stand people who just are too earnest about it. If you're doing that, you shouldn't be in this business. Yes, I want them to very, very often. I start off the editorial with something that's, a certain tribe of the people watching is nodding their head, saying, "You go, boy. That's right." And then halfway through, I'm going to turn it around and show you the other side, because I want to do what they're not doing in the rest of the media. I want to give you the other side. I want you to consider that. So you're nodding along with me. Okay, you agree with this premise. Now I'm going to say something that's going to make you have to go, "Oh, well, you know what? I was nodding along, and he was right about that, and I can't really deny that this is part of it too." And, look, on the one hand, I think we need more of that. On the other hand, for selfish reasons, I'm glad I have that all to myself.
But you know what? Sometimes on Club Random, you get into these great conversations that, kind of expound upon the ideas that you have in your editorial. And people like you, you and Seth MacFarlane had a great conversation that I thought was necessary and needed and healthy. And y'all went right back to laughing right after it. And those are just so important.
Right. That's the great thing about Club Random. First of all, it doesn't have to be political, and it mostly isn't. That's why I started a podcast, because I wanted to have people on, most people in show business. I mean, Seth's an exception. He just did real time. But most people in show business are really not right for doing real time, which is a show for people who really know what's going on, follow it, and can talk about it. We want the A-team there. That's basically not celebrities. It's no knock on celebrities. It's just not what they do. So it's not political, but it can get political, because I have no agenda on Club Random. I don't do any preparation. The producer, the director, and the star of that show is marijuana. I mean, I'm just, so it's like wherever it's going to go, it's going to go. And it's especially fun for me with somebody like Seth, who's an old, dear friend. So, we can yell at each other and then, like you say, go back to laughing. And that's what life is. That's what my life is anyway. You talk. Sometimes you get to this place where you don't agree, and you get a little heated, and then 2 seconds later you're laughing. And that's the way it should be. And if we could all just do that politically, we'd be in a much better place.
Again, Bill Maher is going to be here in Houston March the 2nd. Tickets available at thehobbycenter.org. One quick follow-up on your Seth MacFarlane conversation that you had. Have you seen Back to the Future with him yet? Because inquiring minds need to know. I need to know if you've seen the greatest movie ever made yet.
You know what? I haven't. He wants us to watch it together in his screening room. By the way, he has the most amazing screening room. I don't know if you ever watched his show Cosmos, which is awesome, the one that Neil deGrasse Tyson hosted about, the universe and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you watch it there, it's like being in the Hayden Planetarium. It's amazing. So if I am going to do that, I mean, look, I probably should have seen Back to the Future by now. I certainly know it's an iconic movie, and people love it. I have not. It never looked like something that I would enjoy, but maybe it's the greatest movie ever. I'm kind of putting it off, but yes, I guess one night Seth and I will have a date night, and he better not try anything funny. That's all I have to tell you.
Well, the other great thing, I was just listening to your podcast with Whitney Cummings, and y'all were talking about the preparation for the Tonight Show, and you were one of the few people, not few people, but you're one of the fortunate people who got to do the Johnny Carson Tonight Show, and I'm obsessed with Johnny Carson in that era, and he was a kingmaker. Right. I even watched your first appearance on it this morning, which, by the way, all the jokes still hit. They still hit. Great bit about Federal Express and going to confessional of being part Jewish. Was a lot of great bits in there. But can you quickly just tell me, because I'm running out of time with you. I could talk to you forever.
Sure.
But could you tell me about that first Carson appearance and what it meant for you?
Oh, well, for every comic of that era, of my era, I mean, they'll tell you it was everything, because I don't know if we got into this with Whitney, but because I'm high when I do it, so I don't remember anything I said. But if you didn't do well on The Tonight Show that first time, you were kind of dead in show business. You could do other shows, because there were other talk shows at the time. Of course, Merv Griffin was on, and John Davidson, Dinah Shore at the... there were other shows, but the Carson show, as you point out, that was the king. So you had to be very careful. They had a lot of rules, first of all, back then about when you could do other shows. It couldn't be very near the Tonight Show, and you always had to do your material on the Tonight Show first. That was very important. I mean, it was also silly, as if America was going to see you do a bit on Merv Griffin 2 months earlier and go, hey, what's going on here? I heard that joke on Merv Griffin. But, okay, we had to tiptoe around that for Johnny Carson. And so you could do not so great on some other show, but if you did bad on The Tonight Show, you were kind of dead. And I saw that happen to a couple of comics who bombed on the first one, and you never really got another chance. So the pressure was really, really on. Now, the good part of it was Johnny set it up for you. I mean, the crowd was cake. I mean, they were ready for a comedian. They were in a good mood. It was Johnny Carson. And when he went out there and said, comedy is the hardest commodity to find, which was complete bull, because comedy was not a hard commodity to find then. There was a new comedian every few weeks. You couldn't swing a dead cat without hitting a new comedian. This was the 80s. This was the time of a bazillion comics. Dentists were doing comedy at stand-up clubs. So he'd give you this big build-up, like, and the greatest. I remember when he brought out Jerry Seinfeld the first time. Here he is, Jeff Steinfeld. Well, Jeff did very well for himself, but so he did set it up well. And if you couldn't score there after you'd been in the business, I'd only been in the business 3 years when I did the Tonight Show.
Wow.
But at 3 years, come on, if you don't have 6 minutes of killer stuff in 3 years, then you don't belong in the business. So if you can't score with your best 6 minutes after that introduction from Johnny Carson here in California with a very relaxed audience, then you probably don't belong in there anyway.
Well, you know what? You're probably right there. And you know what? You're going to have more than 6 minutes for the people here in Houston, Texas at the Hobby Center. 90 minutes, killer material. And we can't wait to see it. Again, I could talk to you. I could talk to you forever. Again, What This Comedian Said Will Shock You is a book coming out. TheHobbyCenter.org is where you can get tickets for Bill Maher. Bill, thank you so much for taking the time. It's just a pleasure speaking with you.
Pleasure with you, Brad. Let me tell you something. I do a few of these a year to talk to people. It's not always this much fun, so I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. That means so much to me. Bill Maher, everyone.